You can criticize the victim. You can question her character and circulate all types of negative information about her online. But none of that, and I mean none of it, will ever be enough to disprove the allegations in Quadajah Johnson's murder case. When people do the most, I do the analysis. Let's go. You see, there's something happening around the Quadajah Johnson case that's deserving of a conversation from me. So today we're going to examine victim blaming as a tactic in public discussions of criminal cases, and we're going to explore that together. Because that's exactly what's happening in the Quadajah Johnson murder case. It's a whole blame and shame game that's being played to help push a self-defense claim. Now, before we get started, I just want to reiterate that Quadajah Johnson has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder charges. And that's actually par for the course, especially when someone's claiming self-defense. But a self-defense claim is about the defendant's justification for using deadly force, not whether the victim was a good person or not. Defendants have a right to a defense, and people have a right to disagree with the prosecution's case. But did you know that you can support a defendant without hating the victim? You can believe that Quadajah Johnson acted in self-defense without making Romeca Blackmon out to be this horrible human being. That's what a fair conversation looks like. But when does defending a defendant become victim blaming? And that's not a rhetorical question, but it's exactly what I've been witnessing online from people who frame themselves as Quadajah Johnson supporters and advocates. But here's where I have a problem with that. They're not supporting the right to self-defense or advocating for Second Amendment rights. You know, the right to bear arms. They're supporting and advocating for a person. Or should I say persons with an S, because although there are 6 murder charges against Quadajah Johnson, the support and advocacy is for Quadajah Johnson and Carlos Smith, her alleged baby daddy. We all know Carlos was present at the crime scene on September 8th last year, but he hasn't been charged at all in this case. Yet he appears on live stream panels and he feeds information to the public based on a carefully curated narrative. Now, there could be a personal motive for Carlos. He's publicly pushed back against allegations that he assaulted Romeca Blackmon and celebrated with Quadajah after the shooting.
We also heard again from Smith, who disputed claims made by prosecutors, including allegations that he fist bumped Johnson after the shooting and physically assaulted the victim seconds before she was killed.
I'm just tired of the lies and everything, of what they said I did.
He said he was trying to defuse the situation, and he characterized the accusations against him as lies.
I know for a fact it wasn't true. I didn't headlock her. I didn't beat her with the door. I only try to defuse the situation. They keep deflecting away from that.
Carlos's presence alone on social media panels contributes to a very negative portrayal of Romeca Blackmon. But if Carlos is releasing material that portrays Romeca as the aggressor, that might not only be about protecting Quadajah Johnson. It could be about Carlos protecting himself. On social media, the narrative has shifted from the defendant, Quadajah Johnson, to the deceased, Romeca Blackmon. Instead of looking at what happened during the September 8th shooting, attention has become laser focused on Romeca Blackmon's personality, her intimate personal relationship with Carlos Smith, her online social media activity, and her alleged behavior as witnessed in video evidence supplied by Carlos.
You know, the truth still ain't out, and we motherfucker had one court appearance. That shit is crazy.
Carlos Smith has conveniently recorded and saved all types of video evidence displaying altercations between him and Romeca, dating back to years ago. It's sometimes physical, most times it's verbal. But you never see Carlos or the exchange leading up to the videotaped portion of the altercation. In other words, we don't see what kicked it off. But the victim gets put on trial after her death. Social media viewers are being encouraged to decide whether Romeca was deserving of what happened to her, based on the unrelated and disputed information being shared about her. Quadajah Johnson supporters have boldly stated that Romeca had a FAFO moment on September 8th. They stood 10 toes down and said if they were in Quadajah's position, they would have killed Romeca too. No remorse from Bonnie and Clyde, and not even an ounce of empathy for Romeca or her family. Character attacks against Romeca are being presented as evidence of self-defense. But I want to make an important distinction between the two. Yes, information about the victim can sometimes be legally relevant, depending on the particular evidence and the circumstances. But negatively portraying Romeca online, it's not going to establish that Quadajah acted lawfully in self-defense when she shot and killed Romeca. We get a lot of information from social media, sometimes credible, sometimes not. But social media is not a courtroom. Like me, I'm sure a lot of you have seen a Facebook post. Maybe you've listened to a live stream panel where you were shown the edited video, screenshots, text messages, all while commentary was being hosted by supporters of Quadajah and Carlos. The narrative being spun is not going to help determine if the state prosecution can prove its case or not. And even if it is proven that Romeca Blackmon was a crash out with unaddressed anger issues, she wasn't a murderer. Romeca had issues with other women in Carlos's life, allegedly, but she didn't kill nobody. Instead, she went after her abusive boyfriend. He even blacked her eye a time or two. But she didn't kill him. Quadajah Johnson chose to kill. She killed Romeca Blackmon. Romeca was on her way to work. She was an unarmed woman who was being restrained. Her beef was with Carlos, the same man who's been leading a smear campaign against her since September 9th. Forensic evidence in this case has reportedly cleared Romeca of having Quadajah Johnson's DNA on her hands or fingernails. She pulled Quadajah's hair, and that's why it looked so disheveled when police arrived at the crime scene. What's the chance that none of Quadajah's DNA was on her own braids that day? We'll say this, though. Only Carlos and Quadajah have alleged that Romeca attacked Quadajah by grabbing her synthetic braids. Quadajah was covered in Romeca's DNA, and so was Carlos. So no matter how long and how hard they try to push this narrative of crash out Romeca who deserved to die that day, those murder charges ain't going nowhere. They're certainly not going to disappear because Romeca is unpopular. Y'all better come up with a plan C before the trial starts, because the smear campaign has people taking a much closer look at Carlos and how his actions appear to be more of a cover-up for Quadajah's actions. If it was a justifiable use of self-defense, there'd be no need to victim shame or blame. Based on the Facebook posts, videos, and live stream appearances that I've personally observed, I'm convinced that Carlos Smith played a significant role in promoting a narrative that portrays Romeca Blackmon in the most negative light possible. Not to make her out to be a bad girlfriend or even a bad mother, but to convince strangers that Romeca Blackmon had the propensity to kill Quadajah Johnson that day. I believe Carlos orchestrated the campaign and shared his evidence with social media content creators who would support by help pushing the campaign. Whole time, there's not a single charge filed against Carlos Smith with respect to the September 8th killing. But we all know that Carlos has heard the claims from people saying that he should be held accountable for his part. especially the part about placing Romeca in a chokehold, restraining her, and letting her go only seconds before Quadajah retrieved and fired her weapon. That morning, Romeca got her son dressed. She packed him a lunch with a sweet note of love and encouragement inside. Then she dropped him off at school. On that same day, Quadajah Johnson refused to be examined by EMS when the ambulance pulled up. She didn't even check on her own son, who was only 5 or 6 months old at the time. That baby was sitting inside her car by a loaded weapon that she had just used to kill somebody. She was on the phone talking to anybody except 911. Most new mothers would check to see if their baby was okay, don't you think? Quadajah didn't appear to be distraught, but if one of the eyewitnesses at the crime scene didn't bring it up, we probably wouldn't have even imagined that her child would be there. Quadajah told her attorney that she was protecting her baby because Romeca was trying to harm him. In another statement, she said she was pregnant and protecting her unborn child at the time. Carlos sees himself as a hero. He said he tried to defuse the situation. He says he walked away from Romeca and Quadajah to move his car out of the way. In his mind, Quadajah and baby Carson were safe enough for him to do that. Safe from crash out Romeca. Safe enough for him to walk away from what would later become the crime scene. Yet, according to Carlos Smith, it was when he went to move the car that Quadajah fired her weapon several times, killing Romeca. How convenient that Carlos was able to create distance between himself and the gun that Quadajah used. There's also a fascinating legal and psychological component to this story, if you will. And that's the fact that victim blaming is very persuasive to audiences. Just think about it. Romeca was a bad person, therefore what happened to her was understandable. Therefore, Quadajah Johnson must have been justified. Now, of course, that reasoning skips past the legality of the situation. So a more accurate framework would be this. What happened on September 8th? What did Quadajah reasonably believe was happening on September 8th? What evidence exists to support Quadajah's belief? And the most important question, in my opinion, was deadly force legally justified? I mean, that's a more honest approach than let's find every negative thing we can about Romeca Blackmon. Because listen, Quadajah Johnson is on trial for the September 8th killing of Romeca Blackmon, not the other way around. Romeca Blackmon is dead. So why the hell would she be on trial? Well, she's not. The victim is not on trial here. And victim blaming won't make those murder charges disappear. So y'all Carlos and Quadajah supporters need to stop putting Romeca Blackmon on trial. Defending Quadajah doesn't require destroying Romeca. But let's step back for a minute. I want you to imagine for a moment that Romeca Blackmon really was a terrible person. Let's say she made bad decisions and some people just didn't like her. Let's say Romeca had problems in her personal life. Who doesn't? But while we're at it, let's say there are things about Romeca's past that people found downright disturbing. Okay, now ask yourself this. How does any of that answer the question of what happened when she was killed on September 8th? You can't answer that because it doesn't. A person's character doesn't automatically determine whether someone else was legally justified in using deadly force against them. But people want to blend those two completely different things together. Who was Romeca Blackmon? And was Quadajah Johnson legally justified in killing her? Those are not the same question. Listen, I'm not here to argue about whether Quadajah Johnson has a legitimate self-defense claim or not. Quadajah has every right to present her self-defense claim. and her supporters have every right to believe in her account. But supporting that defense does not require turning Romeca into some type of villain. Now, what if we were to use that same tactic? What's Quadajah's personality like? What type of person was Quadajah before she ever knew Romeca Blackmon existed? What kind of circles did she travel in? What kind of upbringing did she have? What led someone like Quadajah Johnson to hook up with the likes of Carlos Smith and choose to have a baby with him? I won't even go into the information that's been brought to the internet concerning Quadajah's promiscuity or her OnlyFans account. But I will say that regardless of what Quadajah had or how she lived her life before September 8th of 2025, her lifestyle can never be a factor when deciding why she shot and killed Romeca Blackmon. Now, before somebody says, Nikki, you're acting like nothing about Romeca matters, that's not what I'm saying. Depending on the facts and the applicable laws in this case, a victim's conduct, their statements, actions, or other evidence surrounding the encounter can be potentially relevant to a self-defense claim. So I'm not saying never discuss the victim. I am saying discuss the victim's conduct when it's relevant to the legal issues. And don't confuse character attacks with proof of self-defense. Those are two different things. Because saying Romeca made a U-turn, therefore Quadajah was legally justified in killing her, requires evidence. It's not as cut and dry as folks want to make it seem. And there's another reason that this bothers me so much. Because Romeca's not here. So Romeca can't defend herself, obviously. She can't respond to the allegations being made about her. She can't explain a screenshot. She can't clarify a conversation or dispute someone else's version of an event. She's dead. Romeca is dead because Quadajah Johnson killed her. Not because she made a U-turn or a text threat to Quadajah's grandmother. We need to be careful about turning allegations about a deceased person into entertainment. Because once somebody is dead, it's super easy to construct a narrative around their life. So when I ask, Romeca Blackmon is dead, so why is she on trial? Of course, I'm not speaking in the literal sense. I'm talking about what happens when the public conversation shifts so dramatically toward the victim's character that we lose sight of the actual criminal case. Because Romeca Blackmon is not the person charged with murder. Quadajah Johnson is. And if self-defense is the defense being presented, then let's examine the evidence surrounding that claim. Whether Romeca was likable and not whether she made mistakes just like the rest of us do. Because even if you succeed in making people dislike Romeca, you still haven't proven self-defense. So what should we be talking about? Well, instead of asking what was wrong with Romeca, maybe we should be asking what really happened between those two women. What credible evidence exists and what can actually be proven in court? And I think most importantly, does the evidence support the defense that's being presented? I want to close with this. We can have difficult conversations about self-defense. We should question evidence and challenge prosecutors and even scrutinize defendants and the victims. But we have to be very careful about turning a murder case into a popularity contest where the victim has to be this horrible person before anyone believes that their death deserves a serious investigation. Defending someone accused of a crime doesn't require you to dehumanize the person who died. Two realities can exist at the same time. Romeca Blackmon is dead and she can't tell her side of the story. Quadajah Johnson is alive and she's entitled to a legal defense for her self-defense claim. But if we're going to discuss the case, let's discuss the evidence, not some manufactured second trial for the woman who's not here to defend herself. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who can use this message. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and leave a message down below letting me know your thoughts. Do you believe there's ever a time when villainizing a deceased victim is appropriate? And if so, I'm gonna need you to weigh in below. Meet me in the comments. We can continue the conversation there.